of touch upon it, but it's basically, how does a specialist determine whether someone has ADHD or they have just like a normal kind of distraction or a normal problem with focusing?
That's a really good question. It is difficult. My dad's actually a doctor, he's a GP, and he used to always make jokes about psychiatrists because it's not an exact science, is it? Like if you've broken your leg or if you've got cancer, you can test in the blood. So you do your blood testings. There's certain physical symptoms that you can see for other things, surgery. But with psychiatry, it is a lot more challenging for psychiatrists to diagnose because, as you said, it can be so many things. ADHD often doesn't travel alone. ADHD will often be accompanied by anxiety, which could like co-occur or could be as a result of untreated ADHD, very, very common. It could also be usually misdiagnosed as depression. But it can also come with depression, understandably, because if you keep getting into trouble, or if you keep trying and failing, you're going to end up being pretty depressed. It's like an unpicking exercise. It's a process of elimination. So the way ADHD is diagnosed, it's done by psychiatrists usually, and because it's medical, obviously we're dealing with the brain, and it's based on feedback. Okay, so for ADHD to be diagnosed, it needs to be present in at least 2 settings. So for kids, that's usually, home and school. So you need feedback from parents and feedback from the school. There are certain forms, like there's a form called the SNAP form, SNAP form, and you've got to, the kind of questions, for instance, for hyperactivity, does your child get up from their seat? Are they restless? Obviously, the adult ADHD, some of these questions don't really make sense, aren't very applicable, and they're yet to kind of really factor that into the DSM-5. So that's a real shortcoming of the diagnosis process in the DSM-5, is that it's very much still targeted towards the children, not the adults. Yeah. And it also doesn't include emotional dysregulation, which is a huge kind of hallmark of ADHD as well. But so it's based on feedback, and this is the issue. Feedback is subjective, and so there's definitely shortcomings there. I mean, I have a lot of parents sometimes that come to me not being able to diagnose their children because the school just think, no, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the child. There could be like 25 other children like that, for instance. So it is subjective. And then with the adults that get diagnosed, the adults, they need to get feedback from someone that knew them before, when they were a child, before they were 12. Now, the problem here, they go back to the parents. They say, Mom, Dad, I need you to fill out this form for me. I've got ADHD. Parents say, no, you don't. What makes you think that? You don't have ADHD. You're just a child. You're just a kid. This is what you did, but you were just a kid. So it can be quite a challenge for the adult with ADHD to get diagnosed, because they need their parent to be willing to fill out that form and also, provide objective responses. So
I guess it's the same problem with other psychiatric diagnosis, right? Same as probably anxiety or depression. Again, as you're saying, it's not like you broke your ankle and you can see it on an X-ray. It's definitely, there's a certain level of subjectivity to it, but that doesn't diminish its existence or people's need for help from it.
That's spot on. It's a real challenge. It makes it a more challenging disability because of that, really, and much more challenging.